Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode. You catch me currently in the carrot patch, giving it all a bit of a weed before it needs to get ready for the spring. The weather is beautiful today in sunny Norfolk, and it's the first time I've been out without a coat, hat and gloves on, so it's absolutely fab. So join me in this week's episode where I carry on doing a little bit more weeding and we finally get that blueberry planter all planted out in front of my shed. As you can see, the weather is spectacular today. It's 11 o'clock in the morning and it is so lovely and warm. Though it's days like these where you realise not to be fooled, don't get excited and start planting things. It still is the end of February. It's still really, really early. And even though it can start to really feel like spring now, we can still get a frost. But today I am weeding out the carrot patch. I am still finding a fair few carrots that are quite big, so I'm going to be bagging those up and taking them home. And as spring would have it, a bumblebee has just flown over my shoulder. I don't know if you could see it, but it just makes you realise that spring is well on the way. So what I'm going to do after I've finished weeding this area is go and show you finally the planter. It's up here, it's in my car, and it is ready to be put out and planted up with those blueberries and cranberries. It feels like it's taken ages, but I'm really, really proud of what I've done, and yeah, just really happy with it. After that, what I'm going to do is give you a brief look around the plot. As you can imagine, and what you can see around me, it is pretty bare. We've been working hard in turning it all over, getting it all ready for the spring, and I like to be ahead of the game in that sense. So what I'm going to do is carry on sorting these carrots out, and then I'll meet you back at the shed shortly. Okay, so I just want to show you something quickly. This is what happens if you don't thin out your carrots during the year. Lesson learnt. But yeah, so I will quickly just pan down now so you can see what I mean. Right, I'm going to try and not let my shadow block this too much, but as the sun is at its peak at the moment, there's not too much I can do about it. But as you can see here, this is a bunch of carrots that haven't been thinned out during the season. So obviously these carrots are then fighting for space in the ground, which results in basically lots of really tiny carrots. Nothing really that grows to a great size. So bearing in mind these are Chantenay carrots, so they're not the biggest carrots anyway, but when you compare it, well, excuse the horses, when you compare it to this one, which has obviously been given the adequate space to grow, you can see what I'm talking about. So always make sure when your carrots start to pop up, you do give them a bit of a thin, else this will be the result. So yeah, just a bit of a hint or a tip there for you. Always take the time to thin out your carrots. and here it is. I've obviously given the door a coat of blue, as I said I might do in my last video, and now the planter is in place. My other half has kindly put some blocks behind it and actually attached it to the shed, so it won't be going anywhere anytime soon. But I've got the blueberries and I've got the cranberries, they're just off camera. So now I'm going to line this with some weed suppressant material, and I'm going to get the blueberries and cranberries, couldn't get my words out then, all planted up into the planter. But overall, I'm really happy with the overall look and the overall look of the shed. I feel that it has made such a difference. The only other plan is to get a hanging basket above the planter, like I said in the last video. But I've not decided yet whether to do strawberries or tumbling tomatoes, but either will look great, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do is start lining this now. I've got my staple gun, so I'm going to staple gun it all in. I've got my Ericaceous compost, and then I'm going to get them all planted up. So first of all, I thought it might be a good idea to actually explain what I'm going to be doing. So this is a roll of weed suppressant material. Now you can get this in most DIY shops or garden shops, or you can get it online. You can get it pretty much anywhere. And the main purpose of it is to put over your crops or your beds. Sorry, I'm really dirty after doing those carrots. And basically you can cut holes in them to allow things to go through them, but suppress the weeds that are underneath. What it also will do is cover a large area, so if you don't want to weed an area after the winter, you can put this on, and basically it deprives the weeds of any light, and obviously it causes them to die. So really handy stuff to have generally. What I'm going to use it for in my planter is just to give it a lining, so I don't lose too much of the soil that I'm going to be putting in, so the blueberries and the cranberries get as many nutrients as they can. Blueberries and cranberries like Ericaceous compost, they like very acidic soil, and they also like to be kept quite moist. So I'm going to have to make sure that I get up here regularly to make sure they're given plenty of water. They also hate water from a tap. They like rainwater, natural water. So where you can, have water butts or storage to water them. What I'm going to do is, because in the summertime I use the water in the water butts and have to refill them, I'm going to get a separate container or a bucket which I'm going to use just to water those with. So hopefully I will never run out. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to basically cut a strip of this off now. I'm going to line the bottom of the planter, which we've also drilled holes in, which you'll see in a minute, and I'm going to staple gun it around the edges. It's probably not going to be the neatest thing in the world, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And then what I'm going to do is fill it with the Ericaceous compost and then get the blueberries in. So I need to make sure I've got enough to line it and do the back. Obviously I don't want to cut it too short. So it's probably best to start at one side and work your way across. Okay, so I'm going to give it a bit of extra. I just don't want it to pull when the compost is in there. So just make sure there's plenty of give with it before I attach it on the other side. There we go. So I'm going to do some along the bottom. And then the same along the top here. So then once I've done along the top, I will be able to trim off the stuff that's hanging over the front, as let's face it, that's not going to look the nicest. Okay, so pull that out. Oh, just got a little bit left at the end. Oh god, I'm a lefty, but I can't cut with scissors in my left hand, which is a little bizarre, I know. There we are. Pause. Just to make sure it's really secure. Just want to trim a little bit more off there. Sorry, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Just a few more staples in like that, and then I'm going to start putting my compost in. But what I might do first is just put a couple more holes in, just to make sure that it will drain properly. My compost is here now. This is my Ericaceous Compost. I have got 2 bags of this, so we'll see how far it goes. I'm going to start putting it in until I can lift the bag and then just tip it in. But this is why I wanted just to give it a bit of extra give on the material. It might look like there's too much material, but with the weight of the compost, it might just make it stretch a bit, and I didn't want to risk ripping it, so one bag is probably going to be enough, which is good. And I thought the black would look a bit unsightly, but actually by the time it's full, you're not really going to be able to see it anyway. So, a bit of a win-win situation. So after plenty of deliberation, this is the layout I have gone for. I've chosen to put the cranberries near the front because they are trailing, so hopefully they will trail over the front of the planter. I want to keep the blueberries together ideally. I'm also wary of how close I am to the shed door, so I don't want the blueberries to not have the space that they need to grow. So this is the setup that I've decided on. So what I'm going to do now is get them planted and give them a water, with rainwater of course, and then I will show you it when it's done. So there we are, and I hope you like the finished product. It's only taken 3 episodes to get there, but we have done it. So I'm really, really pleased. Now, before I go and finish this week's episode, I will just take you around a little bit of the plot. I won't show you all of it because most of it is just really, really bare. So what I'll do is I'll give you a real whistle-stop tour of some of the bits and bobs that are growing, so like the bulbs I put in back in October, and I'll show you the garlic that I put in only last week. It's already growing, so I'll give that a water and I'll show you that up at the other end. There's not much to see in the polytunnel. It pretty much just tends to be a storage area at this time of the year. It's full of trellises and bits of fence and just, yeah, irrelevant stuff that you don't need to see. But I'll quickly have a look around with you at some of the parts of the allotment, just so you can have a look, and because today is so gorgeous. And then that will be pretty much it from me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, please of course think about giving me a like, and you can always subscribe to my channel for further content. Next week I will be planting more seeds, as we will officially be into March, so I'll be going through what we can do and what we can start to think about planting. But please remember, it is still really early. I know I always say it, but I'd really, really, really hope you won't lose any seedlings by planting them out too soon. So I'm going to take you on that little walk now, but make sure you stay safe this week, look after each other, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye. Right, first of all I will show you some of the bulbs that I've put in. As you can see, even though I thought Mr. Moley had eaten them all, there are loads, sorry about my shadow, there are loads and loads and loads and loads that have come up. So super happy about that. Really, really impressed. Sorry if I keep shaking the camera. I am doing my very best to keep it still, but as we go up, seems it was worth it after all. So the next project will obviously be the gate. It is at home, it is painted. I'm also considering putting an archway over where the gate is going to be, and maybe grow a climbing rose up that, but not 100% decided yet. I just think it'll be a nice way to enter the plot, but it's whether I can get an archway in and be able to open the gate. So that's all ideas in progress at the moment. So as you can see, these areas are pretty much there. They are weeded, they are all turned over. My glamorous assistant in the background, just putting some stuff in the composter. Where my spade is obviously where my carrot patch was that I weeded earlier in the episode. So as you can see, this is the fruit cage area. The rhubarb is already doing really well. This is where I trip over something and have a really bad accident. Yeah, the rhubarb is already well on its way. Looking really, really good. This will be its second year, so we can have a good pick from it this year. This is the area I need to start working on now. This is a real mess. Verbena here, I just have been a bit lazy with some parts, and they just need a bit of work. I have still got some sprouts growing under there that I can pick, and obviously the fruit cage needs a bit of a sorting out as well. The polytunnel, like I said, not a lot going on in there. It is just used as storage at this time of year. So it won't be long though until we get on that. My garlic that I planted in October is flying along now. Doing really, really well. All 4 varieties now are doing really, really well. Really, really happy with them. And then the garlic which we put in last week. As you can see, already growing, some quicker than others. I'm just going to give them a water before I go, but certainly bigger than only a week ago. Last but not least, the potato area is now all turned over. and has been edged, and the area right at the back, which is the area we need to do a lot of work on, has now been flattened. My other half worked like a trooper to get that done. So the next step is to tidy up and sort out the composters, and on the left hand side there next to our fire area we're going to put a cold frame, and that will be this area pretty much done too. So while it feels like there's a lot to do, I think we're actually making really good progress. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I am going to give these garlics a water before I go home. But considering we are in February, I'm pretty happy with how the plot is looking.